Hello, hello. Welcome to the Drama Club. On this week's episode, we talk about the Megan Thee Stallion drama, Kanye's presidential run, and Nick Cannon losing all of his jobs. And then for the main topic, May breaks down the miracle in the Andes. Stay tuned.
What up, fam? It's good, y'all. Feels good, right? Yeah, I know it, dude. And without further ado, we broadcasting live from CA to NY.
That's my favorite birthday of yours.
That's hilarious.
Will we ever have times like those again?
No.
I think they're just blacked out. I mean, when you get to that point, I don't remember what happened that night. And I didn't end up in the hospital.
Oh, yeah. I just remembered you. That's a text. May can't get up.
But joke's on everyone else. Since I blacked out early, I woke up the earliest.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. I wasn't that drunk that night because I was pissed that they were being ridiculous.
You were drunk with anger, which is a different kind of drunk.
Yeah, I was like sober with Tiff and we were just like looking for them for a long ass time. Mm-hmm. And then finally gave up. I was like, let's just go to sleep because nothing else to do. So,
and that's when you turn 21.
Yeah, magical time.
Remember also on your 21st, we went to
Yard House,
California Pizza Kitchen.
No.
Yeah.
No, we went to Yard House with David and I threw up in the bathroom in Riverside.
But it was CPK because I have the
No,
photos.
it wasn't, May. No, it wasn't. Look it up.
Okay.
It was Yard House.
Because remember we saw that girl in the bathroom with the sash?
Yes. And she said, is she okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, yeah, it's her 21st birthday.
Oh, you're right. This is Yard House. What time am I thinking of then?
I love CPK though. I bought a sandwich from there last week. I ordered the veggie. I hadn't had it in forever. The like grilled veggie sandwich. I used to get it all the time when I was younger.
What's the veggie in it? Is it eggplant?
It's like eggplant, mushrooms, grilled onions, and peppers.
That sounds bomb.
It's really bomb. And arugula, and they put like an aioli on it. It's so bomb. Except it's overpriced for
CPK is overpriced.
It's so overpriced because it was lunch. So I got half with a soup. Mm-hmm. And it was like $14, almost $15. I was like, what the fuck? For $15?
Yeah.
I could go to like a real sandwich place.
It's good though. I like the barbecue chicken salad. That shit is expensive too. And the pizzas are bomb.
Yeah.
Totally underrated chain, I would say. But for $15, you could go to Cheesecake Factory and get the you can get like the full sandwich with a side.
And Cheesecake Factory's lunch special is way better.
It's a lot. So you could actually eat it for like lunch and
2
dinner.
days. Yeah, exactly. Because they give you fries too. I went to Cheesecake with my mom like before this all happened. And I remember I got like the chicken salad sandwich and it was like half sandwich, soup, and fucking fries. I was like, oh, fuck.
That's what my mom always wants to get. She always wants to go for lunch and she always wants to get that fucking
chicken salad sandwich. Yeah. It's called like Annie's
special or some shit.
Yeah. That's funny.
This is the Cheesecake Factory podcast. Cheesecake Factory, when I was a child, used to have a rack of ribs.
What?
Yes.
I mean, they have everything else. So
yeah.
It's kind of shocking that they don't have a rack of ribs.
So they pulled that shit from the menu. That was the first real loss that I felt as a child. And then my grandmother died. That was the second big loss.
Nay. Oh my God. You're ridiculous. Okay, anyways.
They also used to have something called a Chino Latino steak.
What?
Yeah, this is like super throwback, but they pulled that from the menu too after they pulled the ribs from the menu. So actually that was the second big loss.
Speaking of Chino Latino, I just saw that you know how Trader Joe's, like when they have their ethnic foods, it'll be like Trader Jose's Trader Ming's.
They're changing
They're changing it, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's petty. That's another one of those things that, like, who fucking cares? But, like...
Who asked for this?
Yeah, nobody asked for that, but all right. Good. Okay, that's fine. Change that.
Yeah, go ahead and take that shit off. Yeah.
Oh, man. It was last year when a woman, her name is Maylee. I think that's her name. Let me just double check before I start spouting off at the mouth.
I do that all the time on this podcast.
Oh, I accidentally wrote Trader Hose.
That's their sex product line.
Oh, they need to make that shit.
Yeah, what the fuck are they thinking of?
Her name is Melyda. How would you say that?
Say it again.
Myda. Melita?
Melita, yeah.
Well, there's this woman, Melita, who was shot inside of my local Trader Joe's by the police last year.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. It was like the whole neighborhood was very upset and stuff. And anyway, this weekend was the anniversary of her death. And on Sunday they had a march because the LAPD shot her. Like they shot into the store because the suspect ran in there.
I remember, yeah.
And they shot her and she died. And so on Sunday they had a march because they ruled her death was like a justified death or something. When you don't shoot into a crowd of fucking people.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. Anyway, I couldn't go to the march because I had other plans. But yeah, like everybody showed out for it.
You can't be going to marches, May. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's another thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Check out this little girl on TikTok.
Her little butt. Look at her little shirt.
I know. I love how babies look like they have butts because they're Pampers. Her little arms.
Is she 47 years old?
Isn't she so cute? I know, her little curly hair too, like how it's all short.
She looks like everybody's tia.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so
that fit though. I need that outfit.
Right? That little popsicle shirt. That just slaps. I always forget about popsicles, and every time I have one, I'm like, yes.
Dude, so I
convenient.
got fucking paletas in the house right now, and I don't want to gentrify paletas, but the 365 ones from Whole Foods, the coconut ones.
Take this shit out, me.
The coconut ones fucking slap.
I always like coconut paletas, and I don't really fuck with like shaved coconut.
Yeah. It doesn't really have very much shaved coconut in it. It does, but like it's so good.
That's what's up.
I ordered one box because they were on sale. They were 4 come in a box, and like I ate all 4 within like 5 seconds, and I was like, well, guess I'm gonna have.
I hate how those boxes only have 4.
Yup.
Who the fuck is that? Yeah. What kind of single ass person is buying this box?
So then I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to order a whole shipment of these fucking paletas. So
I like a 36 pack.
I literally ordered like 20.
Good, yeah. Just have them on deck. Okay, a lot of stuff happened this week, I feel like.
Motherfucking James Harden put on a mask that was Blue Lives Matter.
Oh, why? Is he a cop?
So James Harden shows up to the NBA bubble wearing a mask, a Blue Lives Matter mask. And everyone immediately, like the internet erupted, and they're like, the fuck? And then James Harden has the audacity to say, or I guess it's true, so it's not audacity, but you uninformed motherfucker said he saw it on the internet, thought it looked cool, bought it, and then he was like, it covers my beard, because it was one of those, like, I don't know what they're called, but like the neck
like the big ass ones,
sort of. Yeah. He's like, it covers my beard, and I thought it looked cool, so I wore it.
Jesus.
It had the Punisher mask on it and everything. Like, it had, like, all the white supremacist pieces.
Jeez, might as well have had the fucking Confederate flag on the other side.
There you go.
Please stop. Megan is, like, the craziest thing, right?
Who, child?
Because what the fuck is going on?
Oh.
So, Megan Thee Stallion was hanging out with Kylie Jenner and Tory Lanez. Is that him?
Yeah. That's
and are they together?
I don't know.
Okay, so they're hanging out at Kylie's house, right?
Yeah.
And then when she left...
Oh, different party. They were hanging out with Kylie like the week before, and that was like the first time we saw Megan and Tory together or something.
Oh, okay. Because I saw a lot of backlash saying like, how is Tory and Megan getting arrested and nothing's happening to Kylie?
Oh, because, okay, so they were at Kylie's pool party like the last week, and then this week they went to a different party with Kylie.
Oh, okay. That's what I meant.
Okay.
So, yeah. So they're with Kylie. And then they were leaving, Tory and Megan. Mm-hmm. And then there was an altercation. And, like, there's, like, we don't really know what happened, right? Mm-hmm. There's reports saying that Tory shot Megan.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Megan got shot.
Yeah. Twice.
Yeah. While she was trying to leave this get-together. And then when they got into the car, so the police showed up and arrested Tory and Megan. But they didn't arrest Megan. They took her to the hospital. Mm-hmm. But if you see the footage of her being like told to exit the vehicle and walk backwards and shit while she's bleeding.
I fucking hate that video because why are they playing, what is that game, like Simon Says with her?
Yes.
Red light, green light or some shit when she's obviously like struggling to walk.
And injured and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fucking insane. Like, what the fuck happened?
Megan Thee Stallion shot is not something I ever would have
thought would come out.
My God, yeah. And it just like, it really put it like just like a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach, you know? I know it's just her foot, but.
Yeah, but still, I mean, anybody getting shot is scary. I mean, that could lead to infections.
Yeah.
Anywhere. Anyways, that's fucking crazy. Who the fuck is Tory Lanez? Why is he hanging out with Queen Megan?
No idea.
Yeah.
I feel
who's a scrub?
I'm worried about him though, because the streets were like, as soon as they found out Megan was shot, everyone was like, who fucking did this? Like,
yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. Now go ahead and quarantine.
Oh, that first and foremost, what were y'all doing at a party?
And hanging out together?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is that? Yeah. They're fucking young. You forget.
It's true.
But still, that shit was stupid. But that was some part of the backlash I saw. Like, what the fuck are they even doing hanging out together?
I saw that the next day, Megan's producer, one of Megan's producers, tweeted something at Tory Lanez, "You ain't safe" or something before it even came out that like he was involved in the shooting or anything. And he tweeted it and deleted it right away, but everyone got screenshots, of course. And
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love Twitter.
So everyone got screenshots, and so then that's how people were kind of like starting to whisper, "Oh, it was Tory that shot her."
That's crazy, dude.
Let me tell you, I had to have an MRI on Friday because I have sciatica. Anyway, so
They did confirm that's what it is?
No, I don't know if that's what it is, but.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sitting in the waiting room. Before you get an MRI, you have to change to a gown and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like naked in the waiting room with this gown on, and they have a TV in there, and TMZ was on, and it was like they were talking about Megan and Tory, and I was like, watch it, and they called me, and I was like, no. And that's hilarious. That's where I saw the footage of her walking and the police talking to her and shit. I was like, no.
Nick Cannon, did you hear the podcast?
Yes.
You did?
Uh-huh.
Okay, because I didn't hear the podcast. I just saw all the news reports after the fact.
Yeah.
And from what I put together on his podcast, he agreed with someone else's anti-Semitic statements.
No, he was saying it.
Oh, he was saying it?
Yeah.
Okay. What I read was just that that he said that Black people are the real Semites?
Yeah.
Okay. And that Jewish people control all the money in banks?
Uh-huh.
What the fuck?
So, the Black people are the real Semites, as if there aren't Black Jewish people.
Right.
But like this kind of implying that Jewish people are like lying about like their heritage or something.
Yeah. And that people can't be anti-Semitic, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most ridiculous. But so he gets fired for that. But to me, the worst thing that he said was that white people are inherently more savage because they have less melanin. Because when they left Africa into the Caucasus Mountains and it started producing less melanin, that it made them more savage, made them inherently evil.
What?
Yeah. So that...
How? Why?
Something about, he's like, melanin has a certain... He's like, scientifically,
calming effect?
Melanin has a certain power that gives you more humanity. So...
What?
It's the most ridiculous, and he doesn't get fired for that. Everyone's kind of like forgetting that he said that. But then I'm also like, why is no one extrapolating? So I have less melanin than a darker skinned person. So am I more evil than a darker skinned person?
According to Canon,
yes. Right? Like, oh God.
And I'm the evilest of them all.
Yes. Except in the summertime, because you got melanin in the summer.
I know. What the fuck? That's crazy.
You know what's even crazier to me? People say crazy shit all the time, right? So Nick Cannon says something crazy, but every time I click on the trending topic of his name, most people are agreeing with him.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
And supporting him. And Diddy was like, I'll give you a show on what is his network? Resist
I don't know.
or something?
Diddy has a network?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Huh, that's interesting. Did he give Mace the rights to his fucking songs?
Yeah.
First of all, shut the fuck up.
Challenge. Did he?
That's crazy. So yeah, so then Viacom, right? Like cut all ties with him. First they said that he refused to apologize, but then he did apologize. So
yeah.
I mean, maybe he apologized after the fact, after everything got taken from him.
Yeah.
Because I guess Viacom owns Wild and Out and like the rights to all these different shows that he's on.
Viacom owns basically everything on MTV,
Fox,
CBS,
NBC. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully he's still getting paid from Mariah, right? Like,
he might have more money than Mariah. He got like 87 jobs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That fool works. Yeah. I mean, he lost them all right now. So.
And then cut to a couple days ago, he had a little scare. Like people were worried about him.
Yeah, because one of his friends committed suicide, and I guess he said some super dark shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said,
which I mean,
I don't want to be on this earth anymore or something.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. And then also Tamar Braxton overdosed.
That's right. I saw that, man.
That same day when Nick was talking.
And it said she was in a dark place too, right?
Yeah.
That's scary.
What happened?
Check on your friends.
Oh, for sure. Especially in this time where it's like down is up, up is down, like fucking, yeah.
Seriously, we're all in the upside down and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, she, I haven't heard an update on her condition at all.
Me either, actually. You're right. That's fucking scary. Oh, I don't like that Nick Cannon thing. That sucks.
It does suck.
Yeah. It just sucks all around. He didn't have to lose all his jobs.
Yeah.
He didn't have to say that shit either, though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Ugh.
People make mistakes, though. I mean, he could have taken an L and been like, I'm sorry. Like James Harden's dumbass.
Yeah.
Just been like,
yeah.
I don't know what I was saying. I'm sorry. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I think that was the problem. Like, he was loud and wrong, and then he doubled down. And then it's kind of like, well, what are you going to do at that point?
Yeah. I mean, come on. Those are your bosses, probably, right?
Yeah.
Is Viacom owned by Jewish?
I don't think it's like a publicly traded company. So.
Oh, okay.
But they let him keep the Masked Singer.
Oh, that show's still on?
Yeah.
Huh.
So he's still doing that. So he's not like fired from everything, but like most
on TikTok.
Most of the things.
There's a bunch of videos of people like, I work in a fancy Manhattan restaurant, or I work in a Beverly Hills restaurant, and these are like the celebrities I fucking, and Nick and Mariah always get dragged.
No.
They're fucking horrible, that they're just like fucking divas, and they don't like talk to people, and they're just like demanding and shit. Yeah.
That sounds about right for Mariah, but.
Oh, yeah. But I bet he's like that too. Like she, you know, he probably like double down with her, like to be that way, you know?
Yeah. Never understood the appeal of him. Like,
me either, May. He's not fine.
Not fine. He's not funny. He can't rap. He can't like.
Yeah, he's not particularly successful in like I mean, I guess he is a successful host, but that seemed kind of like something that was like a side gig that turned into like a main gig, right?
Yeah.
But like he was an actor / rapper, and that never really took off. So like, you know, I don't know. That was fucking weird. Ivanka selling fucking frijoles to people against the government's ethic rules. So that's another fucking fun thing that happened. Stupid ass Ivanka Trump. That bitch, you know, she ain't ever had black beans in her life. And if she has, her ass hurt.
Never.
She's not endorsing those fucking beans, bitch. We know your butthole hurt.
Did you see there was a clip from CNN where is Chris Cuomo the mayor of New York, or
he's awesome.
his brother? His brother
is Chris, right?
Chris is the TV host, and then and Andrew is the mayor. Okay, so Chris Cuomo was on TV. And he went on a huge ass rant about this, and at the end he was like something like, "Where 130,000 people are dead, and you selling beans?"
Is is bullshit. He said it.
He's like, this is bullshit.
And it's so dope because his fucking accent, right? Like, yeah.
Because he's from New York.
New York.
But like selling beans, like that shit threw me out.
That shit was hilarious.
You ever see that viral tweet from a couple years ago where like
the one with that guy where he's like working at a fast food joint, he's like, hey, y'all want beans on y'all's toast? Like, what is that joke? I'm always like, what is that shit? Because British people eat beans on toast, right?
Yeah,
but mean, like
we eat.
I do too. I've rubbed like black beans on toast, but I guess it's funny for white people because the beans look all watery and shit. Like they don't look good.
I'm not mad at it. Is that bangers and mash? I'll eat this shit.
This is the one where they turn it into a fucking meme. Where is this from? And on the meme it says, hey, y'all want beans on y'all's toast?
Oh, that's 21 Savage.
It is?
Yeah. And then I saw, okay, don't even get me started on this Goya thing again, because I saw people in the comments talking about, because she was holding up a can of black beans.
Right.
And people were like, I'm white, and even I know pinto beans is where it's at. And I'm like, oh, motherfucker.
You do not know where it's at. Yeah. Shut the fuck up. But don't make us get started on the merits of black beans versus pinto beans.
This is an A and beans conversation, so see your way out.
Yep. I had to have pinto beans on my wedding because I married a Mexican.
I don't remember having pinto beans at your wedding.
They had black beans too. You probably got black beans.
Yeah. Because I'm cultured.
But you know, Mexicans, they like whole pinto beans like that. Yeah, Hola's grandma makes them like that. It's fine.
Yeah, I know, but it's
black
beans
are better. Come on, let's not be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the only other thing is the Yeezy rally, which you didn't see it.
I saw like a little clip of it, just like the tiniest clip of it.
Awful, me. Like, so basically, okay, Yeezy's running for president, and he had a rally in South Carolina, I think it was. And some clips are going viral. The first one that I saw going viral was funny because it's awful because he says lies about Harriet Tubman.
That's the one I saw.
Okay, well, he says like Harriet Tubman didn't free the slaves, by the way. She just took them to other white people, like sold them to other white people.
Yeah.
And in the clip, you could hear a girl saying, "We leave him right now."
Yeah. She's all of us.
Yeah, it's so perfect. Yeah. I'm so glad she said that shit. Because he says it and it is super quiet. Like everybody's like, oh.
Yeah, you hear the groans.
But the more concerning clip I saw was him talking about abortion. And he starts off by saying, like, my dad wanted to abort me, but my mom was strong and kept me. Like, I would have been killed. Like, I wouldn't be here. And then he starts crying really bad. And he's like, I almost killed North. I wanted to kill North. Like, and he's like crying bad. And he's like, I almost killed my daughter. I almost killed my daughter.
Somebody needs to fucking do something. What's happening?
I don't know, mate. It makes me like feel really disgusted, honestly, by the Kardashians, because there's no fucking way that, like, if that was Hoel, like, I would have fucking taken a kind of like how Britney's dad did. And I hate to say it because, like, I know there's a lot of problems with Britney right now, but like, you step in, you get a conservatorship, you get help for that person,
especially if you have evidence like this, like,
right? You know? Very public evidence. Yeah, it's so bad. And he's wearing a harness, like a
bulletproof vest.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I'm sure that meant something. I didn't look into it.
Well, he's a presidential candidate and he doesn't have Secret Service protection, you know.
Right.
Yeah. It seems really, really bad. I'm worried about him at this point. But
why do you think they don't step in?
Maybe much like, remember ODB when we were like, what does help look like for him?
Right.
What does help look like for Kanye? Can you harness Kanye? Probably doesn't let himself be handled, quote unquote.
I mean, you do it without his consent, though. Like,
yeah, true,
honestly,
true.
you just like do it because you're concerned and you love that person and you know that they're not thinking straight.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's awful though, and people like I'm super disappointed that people were even at that fucking rally.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like just stop giving him that platform too,
Right.
because
yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah, he keeps going because he has a platform, and then that's what people say too. Is like, I mean, everybody standing with him on that stage, like everybody pumps him up and shit instead of like doing the hard work and like fighting with him. Probably.
Mm-hmm. Homegirl that posted that video, it's probably what was happening with everyone, because in the tweet that she posted, she said something like, I showed up to get a laugh, and I did, but as soon as he said that shit, you know, we were out.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And also that's how we ended up with Trump. People showed up to like laugh at him or whatever, and then it's not fucking funny, it's not a joke.
No, they actually like get people behind them.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's scary. Everybody vote.
Mm-hmm.
And not for Kanye.
And vote also in the spirit of John Lewis, who we lost this week.
R.I.P. John Lewis. Did you see fucking, was it Ted Cruz who posted?
It was Marco Rubio.
Oh my God, man. Who did he post the picture of?
Elijah Cummings, who died last year. Because I remember because the same shit was happening last year. People were posting pictures of John Lewis when Elijah Cummings died.
Shut the fuck up, man.
I mean, they don't look exactly alike, but they bear a passing resemblance. But if you're like memorializing someone that you fucking know,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like if it was a stranger, still do your homework, and it's still fucked up that you would mess this up. But like whatever, anyway. Yeah. But like, so your colleague doesn't know the difference.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Oof, Marco Rubio. Sorry to this man.
Oh, I hate Marco Rubio so much. I hate him.
Peace the fuck out, bro.
You and Ted Cruz, both of y'all.
Ted Cruz. Did you see that picture of that fool on a fucking plane without a mask on?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Go fuck yourself, Ted Cruz.
Mm-hmm. Ted Cruz, I will never understand. This president called his wife a dog, said his father killed Kennedy, and he's right there kissing his ass.
Yeah. Yeah, that fool don't have no backbone.
Yeah.
Fuck that fool. Yeah. Ted Cruz, you a little bitch.
This is the anti-Ted Cruz podcast.
Ted Cruz fucking, remember he liked that porno on Twitter?
On 9/11.
Yeah. Yep. It was like a disgusting one too.
Ted Cruz, you selling beans?
Ted Cruz, you want beans on your toast?
I think I'm a coward, do they? Well, maybe I am. If only I weren't so afraid.
Hello, everyone. My name's Stephanie.
And my name is May.
This is the fucking Drama Club.
This is the podcast about fucking hating Ted Cruz.
Celebrity scandals.
Beans.
Gossips. Drama. Yeah, beans. What else did we talk about?
Mental health.
Ooh, yeah, mental health.
Getting shot in the foot.
I did see this thing that was going viral on Twitter that was like, you know, like we talk so much about mental health and then people just like drag Kanye.
Yeah.
Which that sucks. It does, but like part of the reason is because I think you're so angry like that this is even happening. Like when all these people are surrounding him that you think should be doing something, you know? And like nobody seems to care. I'll never forget that Kim fucking tweeted after one thing that he did. Oh, he's not bipolar. He doesn't have, like, why does everybody keep saying that? He needs to take his medication.
Oh.
Remember she said that shit?
Yeah.
She was like, he's not sick.
I was thinking it's going to suck for North when she's older. And
everybody was saying that too.
This video.
That's fucked up.
Ugh. I just hope he gets the help that he needs, but like I said, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. Oh, okay. It's my turn this week, and for this topic, I was a little bit stuck. Like, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do.
I feel that way. I've been thinking about my solo, and I'm like, what do I need to do?
Like, I have a couple that I'm thinking are more for like a twofer, but for a solo, I've been thinking for a couple weeks and coming up empty. When last week I was browsing some library books and came across the book Alive, which is the story of the Uruguayan rugby team. of course, I've seen the movie Alive several times, and this movie has this story has always fascinated me. So I figured I'd read the book real quick and see if there was enough there for the podcast. And spoiler alert, there is. So yeah, I read the book and I rewatched the movie. So here we go.
You rewatched the movie?
Mm-hmm.
How is it? It's old now.
It's never been a good movie.
It's just so wild.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed watching this movie. I've watched it several times, but it's not a good movie.
Right.
And also, I forgot that John Malkovich is like the narrator in the very, very beginning. And low key, John Malkovich was kind of looking good, and like he has like something.
What? I love John Malkovich. Yes.
He's like sexy, like in his day.
I told you to watch that stupid show on Netflix.
Oh, that's right.
Just for him.
I haven't
Space
seen
Force.
it yet. Yeah.
For him and Lisa Kudrow, it's worth it. He says something fucking awesome at one point because he's a scientist and like some army guy tries to stop him and he's like, will you move this fucking killing machine?
Okay. Here's the breakdown from the preface of the book. The full title of the book, by the way, is Alive, the Story of the Andes Survivors, and it's by Piers Paul Reed. His last name is spelled R-E-A-D, so maybe it's Red. I don't know. By the way, I can't recommend this book enough. Literally, go read it right now if you're into that sort of thing. I could not put it down. Like, I thought I knew the story, but I most certainly did not. Okay, so here's the preface. On October 12th, 1972, a plane chartered by an amateur Uruguayan rugby team took off from Montevideo, Uruguay, on the way to Santiago, Chile. So if you look at a map of South America...
I was about to ask.
You'll see that it's pretty much like a straight shot from east to west across the Andes. Not a big deal at all. It's more or less 900 miles.
Oh, this is a short flight.
Mm-hmm. But the plane ran into some bad weather and they had to land in Mendoza, Argentina for the night, which is like the first town immediately to the east over the Andes from Santiago, Chile. So the next day, Friday the 13th, the weather was okay and they take off. But to get across the Andes in the kind of plane that they had, they actually have to fly south a little bit so they can go through an area that had lower peaks called the Planchon Pass. So at 3:21 p.m., the pilot told the air traffic controller in Santiago that they were over the Planchon Pass. And 3 minutes later, that they were over the town of Curicó, Chile, meaning that they'd gone all the way through the pass and were past the Andes. So air traffic control was like, dope. You can head north then. See y'all in Santiago. The pilot heads north, and 6 minutes later, he gives air traffic control an altitude reading. 1 minute after that, air traffic control hits him up about something and receives no response. And it would be a long, long time until the world would come to know what happened to Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571. Okay, so here's the story.
How old were these guys?
Between 19 and like 25, 26. There were a couple people that were older. I'll tell you why right now.
Okay.
So rugby was relatively new to Uruguay. It caught on after a boys' Catholic secondary school was founded in the suburbs of Montevideo by a brotherhood of Irish laymen who thought the sport built character in young men. In 1965, 10 years after the school was formed, some alumni wanted to keep playing and formed a team called the Old Christians Club. And by then, rugby had kind of caught on throughout Uruguay. But the Old Christians Club was pretty good because their core had been playing together longer than a lot of the other teams at that point. So they traveled all around the country playing. And by 1971, they even went all the way to Santiago, Chile for a tournament. To make it more affordable, at around $40 a person round trip, they chartered a plane from the Air Force and sold the extra seats to supporters who wanted to go see the matches in Santiago or friends of friends who wanted to take advantage of a great deal on a chartered flight for the weekend. And it was a huge success. Lots of people from their country would take advantage of like going to Chile because the exchange rate was good. So it's like perfect. Like, your friends are going anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like you can, have a little quick getaway. So it was a huge success. And they were pumped to repeat the trip the next year in 1972. So that's basically the background of how we ended up here, with 15 members of the team 25 friends and family, and 5 crew members for a total of 45 people on the flight. So like the boys were like I said, between 19 and 20 something. But they had friends and family. Some of them were like in their 30s. There was like a few people that were older.
Wow.
All passengers were members of prominent Uruguayan families, because remember, the teammates are mostly alumni from that one school. And that school was where you sent your boys if you were like educated, upper middle class conservative Catholics in the burbs.
Right.
And the few that weren't from that school were from the Jesuit school. So same thing, educated, upper middle class, slightly less conservative Catholics. The pilot was a crazy experienced colonel, because this is an Air Force plane. The co-pilot who he was training was less experienced on this particular plane and on this particular route, but not exactly a novice either. But still, flying across the Andes is nothing to scoff at. In fact, a plane with 6 people on board had just disappeared in the Andes 3 months before. Anyway, so the plane takes off after having to land in Argentina for the night due to bad weather. While in Argentina, everyone took advantage and walked around town, went to cafes. Some bought rum, wine, cheese, chocolates, a bunch of shit. Exactly what you would do if you had like an unexpected overnight layover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like fucking kicking it. So they hop back on the plane for the less than 1 hour final leg of this journey. The weather still wasn't great, so it was going to be rough. But the pilot had to fly because legally they couldn't keep a military plane on Argentine soil for more than 24 hours.
What?
Because it's like, it's just a technicality. Then it's like, oh, are you invading Argentina, you know?
Jesus.
So they either had to just fucking go or turn back and issue refunds. But the Air Force at the time was hurting for cash, so you've got to imagine that that was probably weighing on the minds of the crew, who were all members of the Air Force. I mean, the weather was all right. It wasn't like snowing or anything, but, you know.
It was sketchy.
Yeah. So fuck it, they went. And the pilot miscalculated his position and was in the middle of the Andes when he flew north.
Uh-oh.
What had happened was, at the time of day when they flew, the Andes was notorious for having crazy wind and weather. So when they were flying east to west in the Planchon Pass, they were hit with a headwind that slowed them down considerably. So they had traveled much less of a distance across the mountains than they would have thought.
Don't they have like computers and stuff that help them with all this?
In 72,
oh yeah,
it's not as advanced.
Right.
Also, the weather was, so they were like flying at a lower altitude, and the altitude where they were flying, usually, you know, planes fly above the weather. But the altitude where they were flying, the weather wasn't great, so they couldn't see the ground to get confirmation that they were out of the Andes. So as they're flying north, they begin their descent thinking that there's nothing ahead of them all the way to Santiago. Uh-oh. But they hit an air pocket and drop 100 feet or so in an instant. So the pilot tells the crew to tell everyone to fasten their seatbelts and brace for some turbulence. He says, he tells everybody like over the loudspeaker, oh, like the plane is about to dance. He said, vamos a bailar. And then everyone is like laughing. Most of these guys had never been out of the country, never been on an airplane. So they're like, they're loving it. They're loving it. They think like it's fun, exciting. The plane is full of these rowdy fucking dudes. So they're throwing a rugby ball and shit. Jesus. They're all teasing each other about it being Friday the 13th. And when the plane drops that first time, they all start saying, conga, conga, conga. But then it happens again. They drop another couple 100 feet in an instant, and some of the guys try to play it off at first. They're like, ole, 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 ole.
Yeah.
But people are starting to get nervous, especially the people by the windows, because after that second drop, they actually fell under the clouds. So now they could see. And they could see that the wing was literally like 10 feet from the side of the mountain. Oof. So that's when they realized something is really wrong. The co-pilot was the one who was in charge of the controls. He'd been flying this time because he was getting trained, you know?
Right.
So the co-pilot tries to pull up very dramatically, like they're almost vertical, and that's too much for the engines, and it's too late. The right wing clips the mountain and flies off. Oof. Then it flips over the cabin of the plane and cuts the tail off. And out went 2 members of the crew and 3 of the boys from the team. Then
I was like thinking like, why do I know this story, and I know like people have always talked about this movie, and I was like, why haven't I watched this? Oh, I just remembered. I'm scared of planes. This is awful.
So then the left wing flew off and the propeller cut into the cabin a little bit. So all we've got left now is a fucking bullet falling out of the sky. But miraculously, it lands on its belly and just sort of slides down the face of the mountain.
Jesus.
Meanwhile, the seats are being torn from their bracings, and it's sort of like a domino effect of each row getting crushed by the row behind them. And a couple more people fly out of the back, and everyone's thinking that they're just going to hit the side of the mountain in any second. Until finally it comes to a stop on a glacier with the nose of the plane taking the brunt of the damage, with the instruments basically crushing and or impaling the pilot and the co-pilot.
Oh my God.
The pilot died instantly, but more on the co-pilot in a second. Now I'm going to start talking about people. There were 45 people on this flight, and there are things that I wish I could include about the majority of them, but it was hard to keep track of who did what and who said what and stuff, even as I was reading the names in the book, because there's just so many of them.
Right.
So that's just not going to work for us in this format, and I'm only going to end up naming a handful of people for the sake of clarity. So Marcelo, the captain of the team, immediately took it upon himself to start rescuing the passengers.
Right.
Zerbino and Canessa, 2 medical students, did what they could for the injured, but they were only first and second years respectively. And first year was like 6 months of psychology and sociology.
Right. Like, you don't know shit.
Right. And the whole course of study is like 8 years. So even at 2 years, Canessa didn't know much, you know?
You're certainly not confident enough to just like...
Yeah. Only 3 of the passengers still in the cabin died instantly, including the team doctor and his wife, which fucking sucks because they could have had a real doctor, you know?
Yeah. Died instantly, like from their injuries in the crash?
Yeah, because when the seats started getting released from their
Floor,
bracings,
basically?
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know the domino effect happened. Most of the injuries are like of people getting crushed, but those particular, like the doctor and his wife, they didn't get crushed. They were seated more towards the back, and their seats went flying to the front.
Oh no.
Yeah, so their impact was pretty horrible. Anyway, the description of the injuries are absolutely one of the worst things I've ever read. It's horrible. Impalements, compound fractures, you name it. I won't go into it, but it was a fucking plane crash where almost everyone is crushed by the seats and the propeller tore into the plane at one point. So yeah, it's gruesome. So pretty quickly, people started dying. It went really badly for those who were conscious, let's put it like that. So let's set the scene. They're now in sub-zero temperatures,
Right.
which they're absolutely not prepared for. Some were in short sleeves, others in blazers. They're on a fucking mountain, so the air is really thin. So thin that the slightest movement and you're gasping for air, it takes so much energy. For example, one dude was injured but was laid out from altitude sickness, so he'd get dizzy and barf whenever he tried to move. People had head injuries, so one kid didn't know where he was or what was happening. So imagine all of this in the immediate aftermath of a crash. It's chaos. Like, even if you were uninjured, just getting your bearings is borderline impossible in these conditions, not to mention starting to try to help your friends who are injured or trapped or whatever.
Right.
They saw one of the homies who miraculously survived falling out of the back of the plane, all disoriented and walking in the snow. And they're like trying to get his attention, but it's a far distance and he couldn't see them or anything. So he's just like walking in the snow, but then he just like fell through the snow and he suffocated.
Oh my God.
They didn't find him until like way, way, way later.
It's snowing or it had snowed?
It's not snowing in this exact moment, but then it started to fucking snow.
Oh, great.
like right now. So now it's starting to fucking snow, but like mountain snow. So that's happening.
Jesus.
Meanwhile, like I said, the pilot is dead with the instruments through his chest. The co-pilot was alive, also with the instruments through his chest, and he was trapped. There's nothing they could do for him. He asked for his revolver out of his bag. Why is he traveling with a revolver? But anyway, he asked for the revolver out of his bag, but they couldn't find his bag. And even if they could, they were Catholic, so they weren't going to give him the gun to facilitate a suicide.
Right.
He was near death and delirious. He was screaming, "We pass Curicó," well into the night in the darkness.
Jesus Christ.
So this is now all the information that everybody has. We're in Chile. We pass Curicó. So like, where are we? But I mean, that's wrong because they're on the border between Argentina and Chile because they're on the Andes.
Right. They had miscalculated.
Mm-hmm. So they were all thinking, help is on the way. Worst case scenario, and maybe help is delayed by the snow. And the 32 survivors prepared for the night. Within an hour, the plane was declared missing, and Chile started organizing a search. But because...
Damn, 32 survivors made that? Actually, a lot of them survived.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, because you said it was 15 plus 25.
It was 45 in total.
Yeah.
We lost 5, like, immediately.
Right.
And then, like, 3, or I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 died instantly on impact and stuff. So 32 people are going into that first night.
Right.
Within an hour, the plane was declared missing and Chile started organizing a search. But because the pilot called in that they were passing Curicó, they weren't even looking in the Andes at first.
Ugh.
But then they start to sort of like suspect what happened because the pilot was like, "Oh, we're in the Planchon Pass," and then 3 minutes later, he's like, "We're passing Curicó," but usually that would take like 15 minutes.
Right.
So they were like, "Yeah, we get it. We know what happened." So they figured that the plane crashed in an inaccessible part of the Andes. More on the search efforts in a minute. The survivors all tried to sleep in the cramped luggage compartment since it was moderately less exposed, but that's not saying much because it's like 30 or 40 degrees below zero. Canessa, one of our medical students, noticed that the upholstery on the seats could be unzipped. So they used those as tiny blankets, which was better than nothing. People were delirious, in pain, screaming that others were trying to murder them. One guy was like super out of it. He said he was leaving to go get some Coca-Cola. He was like, he's like walking out the door like, "Anybody want anything? I'm going to go get some Coke." Like, so we're dealing with mental trauma for sure, nervous breakdowns for sure, on top of the physical ailments and injuries.
Yeah. Freezing cold temperatures, snow, altitude sickness.
Yeah. 5 more died in the night, that first night, including the co-pilot.
What? Wow.
None of the passengers with compound fractures ultimately ended up surviving. That's just a very terrible injury to have in that scenario.
Yeah.
The only crew member to survive was the mechanic. And he was, I'm sorry to say, useless because he lost control of all bodily function. He just wasn't there mentally anymore.
Oh, fuck.
Which is intense considering that the crew were soldiers. Remember, they're in the Air Force. So this was some shit. So now it's the morning. On to day 2. We got to eat. We got to drink. So now we got to figure out food and drink rations for 27-ish people. Marcelo, our team captain, is all over it. That's one of my favorite parts of the book, like how people just like fall into roles. And Marcelo's like, "I'm the captain."
That's so scary too, May. Like how little societies form so quickly.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Because that could go downhill real fast.
So Marcelo's, he's all over. He's collecting the food and he's getting ready to ration it. Remember that they had that layover. So fucking luckily, some people bought snacks. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had shit. And they lost a lot of luggage, obviously, through the big gaping hole in the back of the plane where the tail used to be. So we're limited to whatever's left in the remaining luggage, which is 8 bars of chocolate, 5 bars of nougat, some caramels, some dates, some plums, a pack of salted biscuits, 2 tins of mussels, 1 tin of almonds, 2 small jars of jam, and a few bottles of wine for almost 30 people.
Mussels? Did you say mussels?
Mussels, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like sardines, right? Like people like cans, sort of. Yeah. I'm imagining one of those South American food, like a little tin of, yeah. I just remembered that Canesa's nickname is Muscles. Like Muscles, because he's very I don't know if he's like stubborn.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a cute nickname anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Latin American people got the bomb nickname.
Yeah, they do. So no food basically for 30 people.
Yeah.
There's snow, so they can sort of like suck on
water
that for now, but you can't really. That's not gonna work. So this is a problem. They could hear planes flying above them.
Wow.
But they couldn't see the plane because the weather was so bad. So if they couldn't see the planes, obviously the planes weren't going to see them.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
Not to mention that their plane was white, so you're not going to see it in the fucking snow. Oh, okay. On day 3, the weather was pretty clear, actually. And they saw a plane above them, and the plane dipped its wing. So they all start fucking celebrating. They're like, we're saved, we're saved.
On day what, May?
3.
Okay.
And a few of them start chugging wine and eating.
Oh, no.
Like some of the snacks, thinking this is all going to be over soon. Then Marcelo, who at this point is our de facto leader, gets pissed when he realizes that this happened. Because he's like, what if they can't reach us by plane or helicopter? What if it takes them a week to get here and you guys ate most of our food? What the fuck is wrong with y'all?
Yeah.
This is where I'll say that the book is really fascinating. Like I said, the movie's not a good movie, but the movie doesn't even scratch the surface of what happens on this damn mountain.
Right.
Psychologically, like with the power dynamics and relationships.
Old movies didn't really get into that, though. Like, remember Escape from Alcatraz is it Clint Eastwood?
Clint Eastwood, yeah. I love that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, you're right.
It tells the story, but just the surface level.
Right.
Yeah. Old stuff didn't really get into, like, psychology and, like...
Exactly. And
yeah.
So I keep trying to think like, should they remake this as maybe a mini series or something?
Yeah, like what's his face? He stopped working because of all of the sexual assault allegations against him. But Mad Men creator Matthew Weiner.
Matthew Weiner. Yes.
Yeah. So
they don't get into that. They don't in the movie. They surprisingly don't really get into the food.
What?
I mean, they do. They have a scene like where the conversation happens, like, what are we gonna do? And then they start doing it. It's like 2 scenes and they gloss over it, which is like, I mean, this is the whole point of this fucking story.
Fuck yeah.
Anyway, so I read that Roger Ebert said something like, there are some stories that are just impossible to tell, and this might just be one of them. And that's perfect. He's absolutely right. So if the movie scratches the surface of the surface, I bet even the book, which is quite detailed, will never really capture what it was like, you know?
Right.
So yeah, no one who wasn't there will ever understand. So the day after the plane dipped its wing and they eat all the food, one of the guys, Nando, wakes up after being in a coma for 3 days. They originally thought that Nando was dead or dying, like, because he was knocked out and he was all fucked up. Like, his face was all, like, really fucked up. But ironically, because, like, it was all cold and shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, his brain pretty much shut down. So it was almost low-key like a medically induced coma.
God damn.
So Nando wakes up after 3 days. But some of the guys put him in the middle of all of them and tried to warm him up with their bodies. And he miraculously woke up on this day. Like, and he was low-key, like, fucking fine.
What the fuck, man? That's got to be a trip.
Yeah. He's played by Ethan Hawke in the movie. Nando's mom was one of the ones that either died on impact or in the immediate aftermath.
Oh.
His sister Susana was alive, but she was in really, really, really bad shape. So as soon as he woke up, he was like, where's my mom? And then they're like, your mom died. And he's like, where's Susana? And then they're like, she's over here. And he like runs to her. But she died like a week later. Her injuries were just horrible. But back on day 3, Marcelo starts plotting. He's like, whoever can work, we need to divide ourselves into 3 groups. A medical team, a team to maintain the cabin of the plane, and a team to make water by putting snow in the now empty bottles of wine and like shaking it. Spoiler alert, that doesn't really yield very much water, and it takes a lot of energy. So it's like, what are you going to do, though? Later, one of the guys, Fito, figured out that if you put snow on some scrap metal in the sun, it could melt into the bottles, and that was much more efficient.
There you go.
Fito also made makeshift snowshoes out of the cushions so that they wouldn't disappear into the snow like their one friend.
Yeah. Wow.
So Fito's fucking tight.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the authorities are like, it's been 3 days. If by some miracle they survive, they're definitely dead now. But their families are like, nope, unacceptable. Every last one of them are from prominent families. So it's not like if you or I went missing. It's like when Natalie Holloway went missing times 45.
Right. JFK Jr. and shit.
Uh-huh. So despite the fact that all hope is lost, the governments of Uruguay, Chile, and Argentina all continue looking for them.
That's great.
But the big official multi-government sanctioned search was called off after 8 days. Because, I mean, obviously they weren't going to survive 8 days. You know what I mean? No sane person would think that they survived. And fuel was very expensive at the time. I mean, we had a shortage here in the US of A. Also, it was very dangerous to keep flying the planes over the Andes in that type of weather. So people were putting their lives at risk. The governments were like, we can resume search for the wreckage in a few months when the summer starts.
Ooh.
But the families absolutely did not give up. Aside from organizing the efforts back in Uruguay, some reached out to this really prominent psychic from Holland, which is its own fucking crazy story. And some were making flyers to disperse near the Chilean mountains. Some were participating in small-scale private searches in Chile. That on-the-ground effort in Chile was led by one of the parents named Carlitos, whose son, also named Carlitos, was on the flight. And ooh boy, this man is incredible. Big Carlitos was riding horses in the foothills of the Andes looking for his son, chartering helicopters, talking to shepherds in the mountain villages, and thanking them by taking Polaroid photos of them because some of them had never seen a photograph before. This is how remote the area where this motherfucker was looking.
Right.
He was just straight up moving heaven and earth. He gets a reputation as that crazy Uruguayan because people think he's insane, thinking he's going to find them.
Right. And who from him was on the plane?
His son.
Okay.
At one point in the book, I was weeping reading about what this man had gone through.
That's awful.
For a while in the book, I was like, why are there so many scenes of the search? I kind of don't care about the search. I care about what's going on the mountain, you know?
Yeah.
But by the end, when it all comes together, it's so necessary. And it's also completely missing from the movie, which is another thing that I don't like about the movie now after reading the book.
Huh.
Okay, so day 10 on the mountain. Now there's zero food. So 4 of them, including Carlitos and Fito, decide to climb behind the plane over a relatively small hill to A, get the lay of the land, and B, try to find the rest of the plane. They're all super weak at this point.
But are they not injured that much? This group of...
These 4, they're not injured at all, really.
Damn, that's insane, man.
Some of them, Canessa was talking about how, he looked around, that first day, and he's like, damn, some of us have, a black eye, and that's it. It's just, insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these 4 are, the strongest out of all of them at this point. And they try to do this little hike. But they're all super weak at this point. So when I tell you that climbing just the tiniest of hills was a struggle, believe me, all 4 of them almost died. And they didn't even find the rest of the plane. So the 4 of them are on the top of this hill. And it took them all morning to get there. And they're sitting there talking fuck, what are we going to do? And that's when Carlitos reveals to Fito. He's like, Nando told me that if we weren't rescued, that he'd eat one of the pilots to get out of here. And Carlitos is like, man, that hit on the head must have fucked him up. And Fito's like, I don't know. It might be the only way to survive. And after some silence, the 4 of them made their way back to the plane.
Uh-huh.
Back in the plane. Things are obviously getting desperate. Finally, Canessa is like, listen, everybody, I think we're going to have to eat the dead. He just puts it out there.
It? Yeah.
The bodies were all preserved in the snow because it was so fucking cold. It was like a huge freezer. And everyone is kind of participating in this debate. But Canessa's like, guys, if we don't start eating pretty soon, we won't have the strength to cut the meat even if we wanted to.
Right.
People are still kind of pushing back on the notion, which is complicated by the fact that for the most part, they're all really super Catholic. So Ganesa's like, their souls are in heaven. So take that part out of your minds. And don't we have a moral obligation to God to preserve life, our lives? And Fito's like, didn't you guys see that we couldn't even climb that hill? We're not going to be able to do much of anything out here if we don't eat.
Right.
And everyone is like suddenly realizing that they don't really have a choice if they're going to survive.
Yeah. I mean, there is nothing else.
There's nothing else.
There's snow and air and us.
Yeah, that's it. And one of the guys is like, dude, if I die, you guys better eat me or I'll fucking haunt you motherfuckers.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably have that same sentiment. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Eat me. I'm gone.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Yeah.
At this point, there's only one woman still alive, and her name is Liliana. She, along with her husband, survived the crash. She's like in her 30s, but being the only woman becomes like the de facto mother of the group.
Right.
And she's like a big comfort to the guys, and they all sort of look to her right now. They're like, what do we do?
Right.
And Liliana is like, I don't have a moral problem with this, but I'm letting you guys know that I can't. At least not if there's still hope of a rescue. But absolutely, we have to do what we have to do to survive.
A rescue in the next 10 minutes or what? Like,
yeah. So Canessa starts thinking. He's like, I have to do this. Like, I have to do it to show them that it's okay.
Right.
So he takes a piece of broken glass. He walks out of the plane to one of the bodies that's like half covered in the snow. He cuts small slivers of meat from someone's butt and places them on the roof of the plane to dry. Then he walks back into the plane and he said, hey, like, the meat's up there. Anyone who wants a piece is welcome to go and grab one. And everyone's just like sitting in stunned silence, just like looking at each other. So Canessa walks up there, psychs himself up, and eats a piece. Then slowly but surely, small groups of guys make their way up and start eating. And that's how it started. The movie has, like I said, like one relatively short scene about them eating the bodies, but the rest of the book is mostly about the bodies.
I was going to say, what? Isn't that the whole fucking thing?
It's the whole thing. Obviously, it's the most salacious and scandalous part of the story, but I hadn't considered the psychological implications beyond the initial decision, you know? And the book gets into all of that, and also what parts they had to eat and when they decided to eat certain parts and how and why. It's nuts. And it's a huge testament to the human spirit and the will to survive. If you ever wondered what it tastes like, apparently it's a lot like beef, but softer.
Okay.
I'd always assumed pork because our anatomy is very similar.
To a pig?
Yeah, but I was wrong. Anyway, a part of what made it somewhat easier to...
I guess I would go butt first, too.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, what would I do first?
Makes the most sense.
I think calf is what I would go for.
Really? There's like muscle there.
So, yeah, that's what you want, I think. Like, you want like a good mix of fat,
you want to stay away from bone, right? Like, you want to stay as far away from a piece of bone as possible.
Well, they end up, like, towards the end, they have to, like, their bodies are craving vitamins that they're not getting. So Canessa's like, let's fucking crush the bones and, like, eat them and try to get some calcium.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. They end up having to eat fucking everything.
Everything?
Except genitals. And at first they're not eating, like,
face,
heads, or hands or feet. But then, like, later, when things start getting real desperate, they start cracking open the skulls and eating the brains, and, like, it's like I'm telling you, like,
May.
like the psychology of, like, when they start saying, like, I think we're gonna have to start eating the brains, like, shit like that, like the lungs. It's when things start getting real desperate. It's fascinating.
That's insane.
So,
I'm gonna have to read this book.
You have to read the book.
Yeah. The whole plane crash thing really fucked me up right now when you were saying it. Maybe I could just skip it.
You can skip the plane crash part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, once you get that, get that out of the way. That's fine.
Yeah.
So, anyway, a part of what made it somewhat easier to overcome the revulsion to eating this meat, and that's not to say that it was actually easy in any way, shape, or form, just easier, was that Uruguay is basically a nation made up of a large percentage of cattle farmers.
Mm-hmm.
So they eat a lot of beef and they eat a lot of the organs too.
That's good. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, so we don't really do that in the States. So conceivably, it would have been harder for, let's say, an American to mentally say, all right, I need to eat the brain of this.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Okay, so they found this little radio. And on the morning of day 11, from what little they could hear, the ones in charge of listening heard that the search had been called off. So Marcelo's now broken. He kind of felt responsible because he was the one that had been the main cheerleader for making this trip to Chile in the first place. And he's like, I can't tell everyone that it's over. So Nando's like, we can't not tell them. I'll tell them. And Nando busts in the plane and says, good news, the search has been called off. And everyone is all in despair and they're like, what the fuck do you mean good news? What the fuck is wrong with you? And Nando's like, good news because it means we're getting out on our own. So Nando is all fucking gung-ho about getting the fuck off the mountain as soon as possible. He's like, I'm ready. I'm going.
Honestly, something about them being like rugby players might have helped.
Yep, for sure.
Right? Because like that kind of like mentality and like almost like masculinity that
bravado
kind of stray away from now.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things at play. There's like the fact that they're all of the same class. You know, basically,
yes.
Social class.
There's no class struggles. Yeah, that's true.
There's the fact that they're all Catholics. There's like a lot of stuff that it's so interesting.
Yeah.
They go into it in the book. Okay, so basically, Marcelo was like, I'm in charge here. You're not going. You need to get stronger. You need a plan. We need to study some maps. We got to try to get a hold. We got to try to hold out for better weather. We need to put together a team of expeditionaries. This isn't just like a get up and go kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Nando respected Marcelo's leadership and he was like, yeah, you're right. So for the first time, Nando, he went up and he got some meat. He was determined to start getting nourished so that he'd be ready to go. There was still a handful of people after Nando that still hadn't eaten. And that's when one of the guys, Pedro, was like, this is a lot like the Holy Communion. Christ died and gave his body for us to have spiritual life. Our friends have given their bodies for us to have physical life.
Jesus.
And boom, that was the thing that finally convinced like pretty much all of the holdouts.
Right.
I kind of like that. Like, I'm not religious, but I think that's a sound philosophical and theological argument.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church doesn't quite like it, but I'll touch on that later.
Whatever.
Mm-hmm. And we have to remember they're eating, for the most part, raw, which is another thing that you have to overcome. Like, even if you're like, okay, I'm going to do it, like, it's kind of difficult to make yourself eat raw meat like that.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Okay. So, at least for the short term, immediate future, we've got a tiny food supply. And then, as if things couldn't get any worse, in the middle of the night between days 16 and 17, there was a fucking avalanche.
Oh my God.
Snow suddenly filled the plane, burying almost everyone. A couple of the guys were sleeping in makeshift hammocks above. So they had really, really bad injuries. And although it was colder, they had more room to stretch out, broken legs and shit. So as soon as the plane was filled with snow, they woke up and realized what happened. And they throw themselves on the pile of snow and tried, often in vain, to like dig people out. 8 people died that night, suffocated in the snow, like that in an instant.
Oh my God.
Including the last member of the crew, the mechanic. Including Liliana.
Oh no. Hey, she wasn't eating the meat?
She had just decided to start eating the meat like the day before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She was still holding out, and then after Pedro was like made the Eucharist comment, she starts eating the meat. So Liliana dies, and so did our leader, Marcelo. The description of the avalanche...
Marcelo died?
Yeah. Yeah. The description of the avalanche is almost just as horrifying as the crash, because it was a very similar thing. Everyone was disoriented and then scrambling to try to save the life of a friend who was just asleep next to you 2 minutes ago, you know?
God.
Or in the case of Liliana, it was her husband who, when they finally uncovered her, but it was too late, just held her and wailed through the night. It's terrible.
That's I mean, that would kill you. Just surviving that and
yeah,
like that would kill you. The devastation.
It's horrendous. And then there's like the conversations that Liliana and her husband had been having. She was like, when we get out of here, let's have another baby. Because they had left they left their 2 kids back home, and he was like, then you have to eat. And then like that's when she was like, okay, like it's just devastating. Only 19 survivors are left at this point. And they're still buried in the plane with no way out and running out of air. My boy Nando, quick thinking, found some sort of fucking like piece of scrap metal, like tube, and used it to poke a hole in the ceiling. So, okay, fine. Now they can breathe at least.
Right.
They collect themselves for a few hours, and in the morning they try to exit through the cockpit, but realize there's a huge fucking blizzard going on.
Jesus. So
now 19 people and 8 corpses are stuck in there for 3 days in a space that's like 3 feet high. The 19 had no choice but to start eating those corpses now.
Oh my God.
Also, now they're traumatized, and every night they think that an avalanche is going to come and take the rest of them out.
Right.
When the blizzard ended and they could finally get out, they started digging out the cabin of the plane. So now they're like, we need to make some moves and start planning in earnest about what we're going to do.
What day are we on?
This is like day 19.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah. So they're like, no one's coming for us. We might get killed by an avalanche. And that's when they decide, okay, Canessa, Nando, and this other dude, Vicentin, aka Tintin, I like that nickname too, are going to be the expeditionaries because they're physically the strongest. And Nando and Canessa are pretty clever, like in their own ways, which is a big plus. And everyone loves Tintin. Bless Tintin's heart. I love him so much. So they decide that...
Honestly, so good that they're so young too, right? Like, that's probably what helped them survive.
For sure. And that they're a team.
Yeah.
Like, on top of everything, they're... Yeah. So they decide that these 3 are going to get the biggest rations. They're going to get all the warmest clothes. They're not going to need to do any work. No making water, no cutting meat, no cleaning the cabin, whatever. And this is it. All their hopes and dreams are going to be on them. There was occasionally some drama about people stealing more food than their rations. There were little pockets of drama about people resenting the expeditionaries for all their privileges and shit.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, this shit like blew over really quickly. Like there were just like little outbursts and then they would get past it.
Right.
It was like no one had the time or energy to fucking argue, and they all knew that it was in everyone's best interest to put petty shit aside to survive. Even non-petty shit, like stealing extra food, seems like it was just brushed aside. It was like amazing what they did to just survive. One of the guys had said that it was his understanding that summer started around November 15th. So they're like, okay, on November 15th, we walk to Chile.
Fuck.
So that would be close to a month after, because they crashed on Friday the 13th of October. So,
right.
Okay, so on the 15th, Canessa's having second thoughts. He's like, I don't think we should go. But one of the guys succumbs to his injury that day, so now we're down to 18 survivors.
Oh no.
And he's like, fuck, we gotta go. So they say goodbye to everyone and they set out walking. After walking all day, they found the tail of the plane, along with the luggage that was inside.
Oh, that's good.
This was huge for them because they got some chocolates and they got more warm clothes.
Wow.
They camped there for the night and the next day kept walking. That night, the 3 of them almost froze to death in a storm, and they had a disagreement about whether it was wise to continue. They decided that they would turn back and try to make the radio work with the plane's battery, which was in the tail. When they got back to the plane, everyone was sad because they thought that if they ever saw them again, it would be because they were being rescued.
Right.
That day, another guy died. 17 left. They head back to the tail with the plane's radio and with one of the guys, Roy, who knew about electronics. And by knew about electronics, I mean he helped his cousin put together a stereo once.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So they try to make it work for several days in vain back at the tail. And it's just not going to work. But on the bright side, Nando found some insulation in the walls of the plane and figures that they can make a sleeping bag. So they head back to the plane. On the way back, they get caught in a blizzard, and Roy starts crying, and he lays down, and he wants them to leave him there to die.
No.
So like Nando's like, he tells Tintin and Canessa, keep walking. I'm gonna handle this. So Nando's like, fuck that, and starts yelling at him and berating him. He's like, you piece of shit, get up, take another step, you piece of shit. Like if I stay out here with you, we're both gonna die. You want that on you? And like just like starts berating him and tells him to go and physically has to like drag him back to the plane. It was really horrible and dangerous. And it proved that if they got caught on an expedition like that they'd die for sure.
Right.
So that's when they realized that Nando's idea to make a sleeping bag is the only shot that they have of surviving a night on the mountain out in the open like that. So the guys start working on the sleeping bag. Meanwhile, Nando's itching to go. He's like, let's go, like right fucking now. Partially for obvious reasons. Like, I mean, they all want to get off. But also because he doesn't want to have to eat the bodies of his mother and his sister.
Oh, yeah. Fuck.
Mm-hmm. So that's sort of like why he has this fire lit under him. And he's like, let's go. Canessa keeps stalling. He's like, the bag isn't ready. The weather is bad. Blah, blah, blah. After weeks of this, December 11th, the 60th day after the crash.
60th?
60th. One of the guys dies of starvation weighing only 55 pounds. We're down to 16. So again, Canessa realizes that if they don't fucking go now, they're going to run out of food and they're going to be too weak. Also, it's getting warmer, so the snow is melting just enough to make it harder to walk.
I was going to say.
Yeah. And also, it just enough to uncover the bodies, so the meat is going bad and they're all eating raw, rancid meat now.
Ew.
So the next day, our expeditionaries say goodbye again and take off again with a 10-day supply of food, a sleeping bag, and a dream. I forgot to mention it before, but at one point, before the first time they went to the tail, they made insulated socks out of human skin.
Oh, interesting.
It's super interesting. Yeah. But they found hella socks in the tail, so now they're all wearing like a bunch of pairs for this trip.
Oh, good.
So the three of them spend 3 nights climbing up a fucking mountain, like a for real mountain, with no real food, no gear at all, nothing.
Yeah.
Canessa's like, we can't do it, guys. This is a suicide mission. So he gives up and he sits on some rocks. Nando's like, dude, Tintin and I will leave our packs here with you. We'll climb to the summit of the mountain and let you know what we see. But just wait. You can't give up because I know we're going to see the green valleys of Chile when we get to the top.
Right.
And Canessa reluctantly agrees. So Nando and Tintin spend hours climbing to the top. Nando gets to the top first and he's like, yo, Tintin, go back down. Tell Canessa to come up here. It's amazing. Tintin does what he's told and Canessa gets to the top thinking he's going to lay eyes on the green valleys of Chile when all he sees are mountains. An endless view of mountains. They are straight up. This is the first time they realize we're like straight up in the middle of the Andes.
Oh my God.
And there's no way they can get across. There's no way. But Nando's like, listen, I intend to walk out of here or die trying. You see that mountain way, way over there? There's no snow on it. That's a good sign. Also, the mountain we're on is the highest mountain I see. And if we could climb this one, we can do all of those. I think we should send Tintin back, take all the supplies, and keep walking. Canessa's like, no way, we'll never make it. And Nando's like, I don't know what to tell you. We either die down there or we die up here. And he finally convinces Canessa. So they go tell Tintin to kick rocks, and Tintin's like, cool. And he hops like on a makeshift sled made out of a cushion. Since it's downhill, he's back at the plane in 45 minutes. Like,
oh shit.
It took them 3 days to climb up this thing, and he's down in 45 minutes. So Nando and Canessa walked over the mountains for 9 days before finally reaching the green valleys of Chile. There they saw some signs of life, like an old rusty can of Goya beans, or like an old rusty can of something, you know, a horseshoe, but no people. So they set up camp. The next day, they walked a little further and come across a river, but that was the end for Canessa. He was done. Like, he literally couldn't take another step.
I was going to say, so they had food for 10 days, right?
Yeah, and that was like stretching it at that point, because they had already passed, they were 3 days in, and they had food for 10 days.
Yeah.
So, Canessa couldn't take another step, so they set up camp. That's when they saw some cows. Cows mean people. Canessa then saw a man on horseback across the river. And Nando ran to the edge of the river to try to get his attention. He was yelling, but you couldn't hear anything over the sound of the river. Finally, the one thing Nando could hear was the man yell, "Tomorrow." So they waited. Then the next day, the man, Sergio Catalan, wrote a note, tied it to a rock, and threw it across the river to Nando. Nando wrote back, quote, "I come from a plane that fell in the mountains. I am Uruguayan. We have been walking for 10 days. I have a wounded friend up here. In the plane, there are still 14 injured people. We have to get out from here quickly, and we don't know how. We don't have any food. We are weak. When are you going to come fetch us? Please. We cannot even walk. Where are we?" It's insane. Okay. So Sergio gives them the thumbs up, and he throws them some bread and hops on his horse to ride 10 hours to the nearest town.
What?
This is where we're in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing.
Right.
On the way, he sends the homies, his other ranchers, I think it's his son and somebody else, whatever, to go pick up Nando and Canessa.
Oh, that's awesome.
So the homies take the guys to their hut and just give them whatever food they have, which is cheese and bread. They're poor mountain people, you know?
Right.
Canessa had lost half his body weight, almost 100 pounds at this point.
Oh my God.
So he was literally, when he couldn't take another, that was it. He was prepared to die right there.
Right.
So Catalan gets to the town and lets the authorities know what's up. The media also finds out and descends upon this fucking hut in the middle of nowhere. It's December 22nd, 1972, 71 days since the crash.
Holy shit, May.
Yeah. That guy, Sergio Catalan, the mountain guy, he recently died last year or something. He was super old. He was 100 or something, but
yeah,
he's fucking tight. I like him. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember our super dad, Carlitos? He's been on the ground in Chile practically this whole time, lobbying the military to try to search again.
Oh, right.
One of the Chilean military dudes, a colonel who was sort of helping him, had a couple days before told him, "Carlitos, go home to your family for Christmas. It's just a couple days. I'll follow up with the mountain villagers, and when you get back, you can pick up right where you left off. But you need rest. You need to rest, and your family needs you."
Right.
So Carlitos conceded, and he was on his way back to Uruguay and was going through airport security when there was a fucking announcement on the loudspeaker. "Carlitos, whatever, come to the security desk, please." And Carlitos is fuck. He was actually smuggling a puppy to take home for the rest of his family. So he's "Somebody saw me with the fucking puppy. Yeah. I'm going to miss my flight." So he gets to the security station and he's "Listen, I'm sorry about the dog." And they're "What the fuck are you talking about?" "You have a phone call." And he picks up the phone and it's the Chilean colonel. And he's "Carlitos, it's just that you've been looking for those boys of yours for so long. I thought you might want to come and see them."
Oh my God.
This is when I started crying. Okay.
Yeah.
And Carlitos drops the dog that he's trying to smuggle. And he full on breaks down right there. The airport security guys still don't know what the fuck is happening because he's talking on the phone.
Who is Carlitos' son?
Another kid, Carlitos. Carlitos he's interesting on the mountain too. He has interesting moments, but I don't really have time to talk about him.
Okay.
So the security guys don't know what the fuck is happening. Later, there's a part in the book when they give him the list of survivors to relay via radio to the families back in Uruguay, but he can't bring himself to look at the list.
Yeah.
Then he makes up something about not being authorized by the Chilean government to read it out loud. But the mayor of the town who's there is "What? No, I give you permission. Go ahead."
Yeah.
So he's forced to read the list. And when he gets to the fifth or sixth name, which is little Carlitos, he he breaks down. He's "Mi hijo." And then, he has to get his shit together and keeps reading the list. Okay, that's the saddest part. It's not sad.
Yeah.
It's it's happy, but okay. So the rescue team starts sending helicopters to where Nando and Canessa are to get details of how to get to the other guys.
Right.
And Nando's "I'll come with you. I'll show you." So
my God.
So he hops in one of the helicopters and they're going, and he's like, it's over this mountain, and the helicopter flies higher and higher, like low key too high to be flying, because it starts like shaking and shit.
Yeah.
And the rescuers are like, Nando, I hate to break it to you, man, but you're lost. You couldn't have climbed this mountain. But Nando's adamant. And they just like barely make it over the mountain. Then sure enough, they spot the plane and all the guys come out and they're waving and shit.
Oh my God.
They evacuated half of the guys out that night and then the other half the next day, 72 days after the crash.
Holy shit.
Meanwhile, this had become the biggest story on Earth. It was literally in the news in almost every country. The guys are all in the hospital getting treated, but all things considered, they're surprisingly okay.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they have broken bones, they have gangrene, they have frostbite, but like they're okay.
I mean, there's got to be a lot of nutrients in humans.
True. Especially if you were eating good in Argentina.
Yeah.
Okay. But the story of the cannibalism, unfortunately, leaked to the press relatively quickly and also circulated around the globe.
Yeah.
A paper in Argentina also heavily suggested that the avalanche never happened and that they killed those people to eat them. Chilean papers published photos of partially eaten body parts on their front pages. It was bad.
Whoa.
Yeah. After it was actually, they talk about in the book how it was reported in most countries except for Uruguay. Actually, Uruguay didn't report about any of this shit. They wanted to wait for the guys to come home.
Yeah.
So all the guys were released from the hospital and made their way back to Uruguay, and they had a press conference admitting to eating the dead.
Right.
The Catholic Church agreed that what they did wasn't a sin, but they were kind of salty about how they compared it to the Eucharist.
Right.
The public was really scandalized by this, particularly old people. I mean, it's unimaginable.
It's scandalous. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't fault them, right? But
right.
I mean, I don't fault them. They did what they had to survive, but it is fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Especially because it's people you know that you're eating.
Yes.
That makes it fucking crazy.
You know, personally, I feel like I could do this. I think my biggest obstacle would be that it's raw.
Rawness?
Yeah.
Me too.
A lot of the end of the book is devoted to how hard it was for the guys to admit what happened to their families. Like at the hospital, when a lot of their families start like coming in and seeing them and they have to say what happened, like a lot of their friends and families, they couldn't hide their disgust and shock, at least not initially.
It's also a different time. This is the 70s.
It's true.
Yeah.
And so it was like really fucked up for the survivors at first. But their families, as well as the public in general, came around relatively quickly. There was also some drama between the survivors about how they handled fame after this.
Interesting.
Yeah. For instance, some guys were salty at Nando because he became a playboy for a little bit. Like, he traveled to Formula 1 races in like Buenos Aires and shit, and was like their guest of honor, like posing next to like these big time like racers and shit. The group wanted to remain a group and didn't really like it when individuals would tell their story without everyone. I mean, I feel like who gives a shit? Like, especially in the case of Nando, who did literally one of the most incredible things I've ever heard in my life. Like,
yeah.
Let that man live. But like I said earlier, we'll never understand what happened on that mountain and the relationship between those men. So I'm sure they have their own expectations for each other, and I don't really like expect to understand the dynamics.
You know what's crazy is none of these guys went to therapy.
I'm saying.
Because this is Uruguay.
Yeah.
They're Catholic.
Yeah. Yeah. They talked to their priest, they confessed, and like that was it.
Yeah. And they just dealt with it.
Yeah.
Their whole ass life.
Yeah. What was crazy was that while they were still in the hospital, so like that first day, the hospital had as soon as they found out that they had been eating people, like the hospital was smart. They were like, don't let anybody in here. Like,
good.
So they like, the media was like outside trying to get statements, and they were like, don't let anybody in here. But the only person that they did let in was a priest, a young priest. Like, he had just been out of the seminary for like a year or like a year and a half or something.
Yeah.
And he shows up, and like the first person he talks to says like, I need to confess about this. And the priest is like, that's not a sin. You did what you had to do to survive. And like, then immediately, like through the hospital, they were just like, oh, like that weight had been lifted.
Yeah. Fuck.
So yeah, there's so much I had to leave out. Please read this book. It's so fucking good. I could keep talking to you guys about this forever, but that's the story of the miracle in the Andes.
That's insane, man. That is a fucking insane story.
It's crazy.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
How did they survive?
The human spirit.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Honestly. Marcelo died?
Yeah.
Why is Ethan Hawke playing a noodle wine?
And John Malkovich, and yeah.
John Malkovich narrates, or
he shows up like in the beginning, like they show him for like 2 minutes, and he says like he sets up the story, and then he goes away forever. We don't see John Malkovich anymore.
Did you stream it somewhere, or you downloaded it?
I streamed it on like some like Russian website or some shit. Yeah.
Okay. Say no more, fam. Wow. Amazing. I love that one. Weirdly. So interesting.
It's so interesting. Nando wrote a book. I'm gonna read it today and tomorrow because I'm not done with the story.
Yeah. It's fucking amazing. All right. Well, that was this week's episode. Tune in next week. Hit us up on Instagram and Twitter at Drama Club Pod, on the website dramaclubpod.com.
On the hotline, 505-539-0556, at our P.O. Box. P.O. Box number 27433, LACA 90027. Leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'll talk to you on Thursday with a brand new Afternoon Delight episode.
Bye.
Bye.
However, whatever with your helmet.